We have a massive trade this afternoon between the Tampa Bay Lightning and Chicago Blackhawks involving forward Brandon Hagel. We'll get into all of the details right now. Hey everybody, so we have some massive trade news this afternoon as the Chicago Blackhawks trade Brandon Hagel to the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for a pretty big haul in return here. A very big return for Chicago. And obviously Tampa gearing up for another playoff run, trying to three-peat as Stanley Cup champions. We got to get into the details here because this is a massive trade. Let's get started. Looking at the details overall, this is from John Buccigross from ESPN. Frank Saravelli was the first one on this, but Buccigross has the details. To the Tampa Bay Lightning, forward Brandon Hagel, a 4th-round pick in 2022 and a 4th-round pick in 2024. To the Chicago Blackhawks, Boris Katchouk, Taylor Raddysh, a 1st-round pick in 2023, and another 1st-round pick in 2024. Massive return here, including 2 1st-round picks for the Chicago Blackhawks. Oh, man, you can tell it's trade deadline weekend because this is spicy here between the Lightning and the Hawks. So obviously 2 teams in very, very different positions right now. Chicago finally accepting the fact that they need to rebuild and they're willing to, move on from some players if they can get a big return like this. And Tampa Bay, they are obviously gearing up for another Stanley Cup run and trying to three-peat as the top team in the NHL. This is their Blake Coleman replacement right here, Brandon Hagel. So we take a look here at Brandon Hagel and what he brings. 23 years old. Not the biggest guy, 5'11", 174, but he plays a heck of a lot bigger than that. Brandon Hagel is a high-energy, high-effort player with some good scoring touch as well. He's got 21 goals in 55 games this year, 37 points overall, having a very strong season for Chicago on a team that really isn't all that good. Man, he's got a chance in Tampa Bay to even improve upon those offensive numbers. The other thing is that he is signed for 2 more seasons beyond this year. So this is not a rental deal for the Lightning here. This is a guy that is going to be a part of Tampa Bay's future as well as the present, as he's signed for at least 2 more years at a very, very good cap hit of just $1.5 million. Tampa Bay is getting a guy who can score 20-plus goals at $1.5 million per year. That is the kind of cap contract that the Lightning need to have on their team. Very good deal there from a salary cap standpoint. Very similar to Blake Coleman. I mean, just to looking at like a direct comparison of a player, very, very similar style to Blake Coleman. And obviously Tampa was not able to afford to keep Coleman when his contract was up this past offseason because, he helped them to 2 Stanley Cups. He got a big deal from Calgary. Very, very similar style of player. Hagel is going to play that way. He's that high energy, high effort guy with some good offensive touch as well. And, again, he's going to help the Lightning big time. He is going to help the Lightning in the playoffs big time. He plays a playoff style of game. And I understand completely why the Lightning were willing to give up what they were for Brandon Hagel. But on the other side, Chicago, they pulled with this. Chicago pulled with this. First off, they get Boris Katchouk and Taylor Raddysh. Boris Katchouk is 23 years old, big guy, 6'2", 206 pounds, and uses every bit of that size. He's a physical player. 6 points in 38 games played this year with the Lightning, playing a very limited role, 4th-line role with Tampa. Also 25 penalty minutes, not afraid to mix it up physically. This is his first year in the NHL. Taylor Raddysh, he's 24. He's 6'3", 198 pounds. Also got some pretty good size to him. Also a winger, forward. 12 points in 53 games this year for Taylor Raddysh. again, these aren't huge superstar players. These aren't, top 6 guys that are going back to Chicago, but they have a lot of upside. This is for both of these guys, Katchouk and Raddysh. This year is their first season in the NHL, and they've been playing a very limited role in Tampa Bay. They haven't been getting tons of ice time. They've mainly been playing on the fourth line. I think there's a lot more offensive upside for both of these guys than what they've shown so far because they've been playing in that limited role. The end of the day, I think both of these guys, Katchouk and Raddysh, can become pretty solid middle 6 players. Katchouk may never be a huge offensive producer, but I do think he can be a third liner. And Raddysh is a guy that I think can certainly be a third line winger and show more offense than what he's shown so far in Tampa Bay, because he's going to get more of a chance to do that in Chicago. So those are the 2 players that Chicago gets. They're both young, under 25, so it makes sense for the Blackhawks, who are at this point rebuilding. 2 players under 25 who have some upside, can become solid middle 6 guys, and are still young and haven't really had that chance to show themselves fully at the NHL level yet. They're certainly going to get a chance to do that with Chicago, who, is definitely looking for younger guys like this to insert into the lineup. And we're going to get a chance to see what these guys can do. And they also get the 2 first-round picks. And that is absolutely huge. 2 first-round picks as well for the Chicago Blackhawks. And that is really what makes this such a huge haul for Chicago. We are talking about Brandon Hagel here, who's a guy that I love. I love Brandon Hagel. He's a fun player to watch. I think he brings a lot to the table in more ways than one. Like I said, very Blake Coleman-like, high energy, high effort, can be physical when you need him to, is gritty, and then has the offensive touch as well. He's a guy that obviously has 20-plus goals this year. He can put the puck in the net. I love Brandon Hagel, but man, this is a haul for Chicago. It's not like they traded away a franchise player here. They traded away a middle 6 winger. A second/third line winger here is who they traded away. And for them to get 2 first-round picks for him, yes, they're most likely going to be very late in the first round, but still, to pull 2 first-round picks and 2 younger players under the age of 25 that still have decent upside, You gotta like that if you're a Blackhawks fan. I know Brandon Hagel was an extremely popular player with Chicago fans, and for good reason. He's an extremely popular player with me. But if you're looking at this from a Chicago standpoint, you have to be happy with this return. I mean, you traded a second-line winger for 2 first-round draft picks and 2 players that are probably going to be top 9 players for you. Or at the very least, Katchouk may be a 4th liner, but I still think he has 3rd line potential. And Taylor Raddysh, I think right now is a 3rd line player on a lot of teams. So, I mean, you could potentially, if Raddysh really develops, you could be getting a player that is similarly good as Brandon Hagel, just in him. Never mind what Katchouk becomes. Never mind the 2 first-round picks. I mean, this is a very nice return for the Chicago Blackhawks, and it's really good to see Chicago finally admitting that they need a rebuild, because for the last 2-3 years, they've needed a rebuild, and Stan Bowman didn't want to admit it. Now that Bowman's out, Kyle Davidson's come in and taken over, it seems like they've fully embraced the fact that they're going to need to rebuild here. They're not a playoff-level team right now. They're willing to move on from a guy like Brandon Hagel, but they're willing to take these huge assets back in return. This is a big haul for Chicago. This is a great trade for the Blackhawks. You traded a second-line winger for 2 current NHL-level players and 2 first-round draft picks. It's not like this was Patrick Kane's return. It's not like they were trading out a franchise guy. This was for Brandon Hagel. That's awesome for Chicago. From Tampa Bay's perspective, though, completely understand from Tampa Bay's perspective. You are going for your 3rd Stanley Cup in a row. And everybody's going to say, oh, they gave up way too much. This was a massive return for Chicago. Why'd Tampa give up this much? Because Tampa doesn't care about first-round draft picks in 2023 and 2024. They're worried about winning the Stanley Cup right now in 2022. And if the Tampa Bay Lightning win the Stanley Cup in 2022 and they three-peat and Brandon Hagel is a part of this team that wins another cup for the Lightning, this is well worth it. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is winning the Stanley Cup. That's what all 32 teams in the NHL are trying to do. Some teams are a lot farther away from it and are more building to try and do that in the future, where other teams that are obviously contending are trying to do it right now. Tampa being a full-blown contender, obviously, trying to do it right now. They don't care about 2023. They don't care about 2024. They're trying to win the Stanley Cup right now. So those first-round picks, not that valuable to them. A 2023 first-round pick is not valuable to the Tampa Bay Lightning right now, especially the fact that it's probably going to be in the 30s somewhere. I mean, hopefully for Tampa Bay, for their perspective, hopefully 32nd overall. That's not like it's a top 10 pick. So I understand it from the Tampa Bay perspective as well. I mean, they're all in. They're going for a Stanley Cup right now. They give up 2 players that were playing on their fourth line for a 20-plus goal guy, and they get a couple fourth-round picks back in return, but those don't factor in a whole lot. And they're willing to give up the first-round picks of the future. And, that's fine if you're winning Stanley Cups. And right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning have been winning Stanley Cups. They're all in, so I get it from their perspective as well. Yes, it was a massive return for Chicago, but for Tampa, if you win the Cup again this year, 1,000% worth it if you win the Cup again. And that's the ultimate goal. Winning the Stanley Cup is extremely hard. There are a lot of great teams throughout NHL history who did not win a Stanley Cup, who had years and years and years of contending and never actually finished it off and won the Cup. Tampa needs to take advantage of every contending year that they have. They've done it the past 2. Can they do it again? That's the big question. So obviously, this is a polarizing trade. This is absolutely a polarizing trade that's going to lead to, a lot of discussion, a lot of arguments back and forth. But at the end of the day, we don't know who gets the better of this. Because if Taylor Raddysh and Boris Katchouk never become more than fourth-line players and Chicago misses on both of those first-round picks, then all of a sudden that's not that big of a not the return that it looks like it is right now. If Tampa Bay, doesn't win another Stanley Cup and all of a sudden, is dropping out of the playoff picture 3 years down the line and wishing that they had more picks and a better future, then, maybe, it's not going to look so good for Tampa. But if Tampa wins another cup, well worth it. 100%, 1,000% worth it for Tampa if they win another cup. For Chicago, if Taylor Raddysh turns into a top 9 winger, if Boris Katchouk turns into a solid third line player, if the first round picks turn into really good players down the line for the Blackhawks, then it's going to be a great trade for them. This is something that we're not going to know how it fully turns out until way down the line. Right now, I can tell you this. The Tampa Bay Lightning got their replacement for Blake Coleman and Brandon Hagel, a very similar player on a much cheaper deal with terms still on his contract. For the Chicago Blackhawks, they get 2 players under the age of 25 that still have very good upside potential, and they get 2 first-round draft picks for a second liner. And then the 4th-round picks as well go to Tampa Bay. But 4th-round picks, honestly, the hit percentage on 4th-round picks is very, very low. Out of all of the players that get drafted each and every year in the 4th round of the NHL draft, a very low percentage of them actually play NHL games. So those don't factor in as much unless, maybe Tampa hits a home run and they get a real draft steal with one of those picks in the 4th round, maybe, but there's just not a high percentage of that. So I'm not really factoring in those 4th round picks as much. Tampa really wanted Brandon Hagel. That's the big piece of this deal is Brandon Hagel for the Lightning. And then obviously for Chicago, they get, what they get. The 2 first-round picks are huge, and you get 2 solid players as well. So kind of just rambling on here, but this is a massive trade, and this is something that we're not going to fully know how it works out until at least, a little at least a year or two down the line, depending on how, things go. And again, if Chicago can make good use of those draft picks, and if they can, get a lot out of Katchouk and Raddysh, then that's a really solid return for them. And if Tampa Bay wins another cup, then it's well worth it for them as well. So huge trade, Chicago, Tampa Bay. Brandon Hagel is now a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that is massive. And we're going to see what they're able to do in the playoffs again, but he is their new Blake Coleman, is now Brandon Hagel in Tampa Bay. So that's what I've got on the Tampa Bay-Chicago trade today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our merchandise store, membership, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.